Chuck Norris, the man who launched 1,000 memes, the Hollywood action star, the karate master, and the South Bay legend. Today, on PCZ TV, we'll examine Chuck Norris's life in the South Bay. Today's episode, Chuck Norris. The South Bay, that magical place wedged between LAX to the north and Long Beach to the south. Carlos Ray Chuck Norris was not born here. He was born on March 10, 1940 in Oklahoma, but after his parents divorced, he moved to Torrance, California. Chuck enrolled in the then-new North Torrance High School in 1955. He played halfback on the football team and participated in the gymnastics program. Yeah, he was number one. Even back then, the team knew he'd be number one in everything he did. After high school, he joined the Air Force and was stationed in Korea at the Osan Air Base. And it was while he was in Korea that he learned martial arts, the Korean karate form of ChunKukDo. He returned to the U.S. and came back to California, but not yet back to the South Bay. He was stationed east of Torrance, out in Riverside at March Field. Well, after his discharge from the Air Force in September of 1962, Chuck returned once again to the South Bay. Since he was a military policeman in the Air Force, it was natural that he applied to the Torrance Police Department. Chuck supported himself by working for Northrop during this time, and while waiting on word on his police application, he started his own karate studio in Torrance. It was at 22543 Hawthorne Boulevard. I spoke to the property manager, and he advised that the space Chuck first rented has been a karate studio ever since his time there. At the time of this filming, it's scheduled for demolition and renovation to be turned into a large apartment complex. According to an article in the Daily Breeze, Chuck worked hard to build up his business through constant public appearances and demonstrations of the sport at civic events, club meetings, and schools. And part of his promotional efforts led him to karate competitions. Norris won the 1967 tournament of karate and in 1968 won the professional middleweight karate champion title, which he then held for 6 consecutive years. Things were going good for Chuck in the mid to late 60s. In addition to winning championships, he opened more karate studios in Southern California, including several karate studios in the South Bay. Life is good for Chuck during this time. He moved to an exclusive and upscale area of the South Bay, Rolling Hills Estates, in 1969. Chuck leveraged his championship status and started teaching some of the Hollywood stars such as Steve McQueen. Norris's official website lists celebrity clients at the school. Besides Steve, also Bob Barker, Priscilla Presley, Donny Osmond, Marie Osmond, and of course, Debbie Reynolds. It was Steve McQueen who suggested that Chuck enter the movie business. His breakthrough role was with Bruce Lee in The Way of the Dragon in 1972. I think it was the last time that Chuck played a bad guy. If I missed another bad guy role, let me know in the comments. In any case, Chuck kept after acting and eventually made over 39 movies and TV shows. And during this time frame, he continued to live in Rolling Hills. Well, if that wasn't enough, Norris found time to create 2 major martial arts systems, American ChunKukDo and the Chuck Norris system, which was formerly known as the ChunKukDo. Of the 2, American ChunKukDo has its origins in the South Bay. Formed in 1966 by Norris, it was, according to Black Belt magazine, a combination of Mu Duk Kwan style, ChunKukDo, Judo, and Shito-ryu and Shokotan karate. And boy, I hope I said that right. Unfortunately, things got less than good for a time for Chuck. He was forced to sell his schools to avoid bankruptcy. One of his former students and school instructors, John Barrett, has stayed behind in the South Bay and has further developed this style, eventually renaming it John Barrett American Martial Arts, or J-BAMA. John is a third-degree black belt into the Chuck Norris system, and when Chuck closed his South Bay school, the students looked to Mr. Barrett to keep the system going. J-BAMA was the result. John still resides in the South Bay and currently runs a martial arts studio in Lomita. There's some cool Chuck-era content on display at John's dojo. Another South Bay connection is Chuck's black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Chuck trained with the Gracies and the Machados, and he got his black belt in BJJ under the Machados. Well, Torrance was the U.S. home of BJJ. Regan Machado was one of the original teachers in Horian Gracie's garage in Torrance, California, in the early days of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in America. Now, Chuck left the South Bay in 1986. Well, Chuck may be gone, but he's not forgotten, as his South Bay legacy lives on, through student and teachers like John Barrett, and in other ways. In 2019, Chuck and his Kickstart Youth Program received a donation from Raising Cane's. And appropriately, the Torrance branch, which is near where Chuck's first dojo was located, features some Chuck memorabilia inside. Will Chuck ever return to the South Bay? Well, he lives on a ranch in Texas and seems quite content there. I think the South Bay was a huge part of his younger life, but I don't see him ever returning. But during his time here, he became a movie star and created a martial art. Pretty darn amazing. Chuck Norris is part of South Bay history. If you've been watching this whole time, I thank you. Feel free to follow my channel. It's on random topics I think are cool. Bye!